Thanks for joining us for this session on traveling with MSA. I'm Elaine Douglas. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and my wife Diane had MSA, probable MSAC, and she passed away about 2 years ago. We have two daughters, Rowan and Katira, and I joined the board of the MSA Coalition about 3 years ago and served as the care partner representative for 2 years. What I love about being involved in the MSA community is meeting families and sharing our experience on ways to live, truly live, even with the diagnosis of MSA. So I was really happy when I was asked to work with Patricia to develop this session. For us, travel really shone a light into the good things about our journey and about our lives together. And it helped us retreat for a little bit and find just moments of joy. And we had memories that we savored for years.
Hi, I'm Patricia Libby, and I live in Altadena, California, which is near Pasadena. My husband, Joel, was diagnosed with MSA in January 2015. He passed away in February 2020. And, you know, travel was always a very important part of our lives. And when Joel was diagnosed, we really decided to make it a priority to travel with our three sons, Andrew, Eric, and Paul. And we took a lot of trips that have created incredible memories for all of us and many, many happy moments to reflect on. I became involved in the MSA Coalition after Joel and I attended our first conference in 2018. And I have been a member of the board since during this past year. And I'm very happy to be able to try to help people in the MSA community to find, you know, joy and to live fully as we tried to do during our MSA journey.
So we decided not to make this your aunt's slideshow of the Grand Canyon, and we hope we succeeded in that. So we're going to talk a little bit about benefits of travel, travel at different stages, where to go and how to get there, and preparations.
We really hope to inspire you today to think about traveling and to be able to give you some ideas and tips for planning and enjoying a vacation or a trip or more than one coming up. For more information and more detail, there's a lot more in-depth information on the travel guide that's on the MSA Coalition website. It's under resources for care partners. And there's a lot of helpful information that goes beyond what Elaine and I are talking about today. And this will be posted as part of the materials in connection with this presentation. I think the first question, the big question to ask is why travel? And there are many reasons that we have come up with. One is, you know, it creates memories. For anybody, traveling can create wonderful memories. And I think especially for people with MSA, it provides, you know, a wonderful escape from some of the issues that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Dealing with a disease like MSA can sort of make people get into a routine of talking about doctor's appointments or medications or physical therapy visits, things like that. And a trip away from home can provide a really wonderful break in that routine. It also provides wonderful quality time for families to just be together, be in the moment, enjoy each other, laugh, play games, do some of the things that you don't always do at home. And most importantly, it just reminds us that there's more, that there's, you know, the time that we spend together, the fun, you know, the laughter, as I said, it reminds us that there's more to life, and it's a wonderful way to create memories.
We're going to talk about different realities at different stages. And I want to point out that we're talking here in a very general sense. I'm not referring to any kind of clinical designation of stages, but just to think about how you travel at different stages and the issue of like traveling while you can and traveling when you can. And for us, we really noted that how is what changes through the different stages. So when Diane was first diagnosed, she asked the doctor for his recommendations. And what he said is, if you ever had plans to travel, do it now. So within 6 months of the diagnosis, we were on our way to the Maldives, which was where Diane had wanted to go since she was a teenager. And it ended up being an absolutely wonderful trip. So this gets early stages is really related to the idea of sooner rather than later. There's a lot more that can be done in the early stages while you're physically stronger, more mobile. There's just fewer issues. One of our other co-board members, Diane Atkins, when her husband got a diagnosis of MSA, they decided to think about all the things they were going to do when they were retired, and they did it then. And they traveled heavily for a year and a half. And then when David said he didn't want to travel anymore, they stopped. So one tip I want to add right here is even in the early stages, there could be an issue of heat intolerance. And there are cooling vests, there's handheld fans that you can take even on a trip to stay cool. And always, always have lots of water. So later on, there are some other considerations. So you may still be mobile with a cane or walker, but walking could be limited, like the length of time and the amount of time that you're going to be out walking. You'll still have a lot of options where to go, and you'll have less equipment, so that there's a little bit more flexibility at this time. There's also less fear of some more serious complication or infection that might happen.
Elaine, I want to just point out one of the things that we found useful was to bring with us portable grab bars for the shower. I would just pack, maybe 4 or 5 of them even, they're not very big, in a suitcase and stick them up all around the bathroom. And it was very helpful and a really quick way to help my husband continue to be mobile even if we were away. You can also do that with a little small bed rail if somebody needs a bed rail to help them get in and out, or to stay in bed. You can pop some of those things in a suitcase, and it's just really easy, and it makes your life much easier wherever you're going.
Yeah, that's great. So then late stage or later stage, there are more things to consider. So a wheelchair, for example, there may be some medical equipment. There's probably a lot more supplies. There be more planning when you think about where you can go with a wheelchair. And there also, you also might consider asking people for help. So thinking about who might help, it's obvious to go to your core group, your family, your friends, the people who are your inner circle. But it's a good idea to really think about who would actually be able to help you, and who's willing to help you. And it may be a different group that you invite to go, but that's going to be very important later on. And it could be the people that you invite could actually enhance your trip more than you ever imagined. So no matter where you are in the stage, you can still have some wonderful trips.
Yeah, we found that that especially in the late stage when my husband was in a wheelchair, it was incredibly helpful to have our three sons who are in their 20s with us. Of course, we wanted them with us anyway, but just the physical help that they provided to me as the care partner in terms of pushing the wheelchair, helping transfer him from the wheelchair to the bed or wherever. My sons even carried my husband in the wheelchair up a steep flight of stairs to go to what turned out to be one of our most memorable dinners ever. And so it can really, not only be a family time, but think about who can also do the physical support that helps you on the trip. Okay, so in terms of thinking about where to go, there are so many options, and we hope today to show you that there are options. As Elaine pointed out, at any stage of MSA. So I think the first thing to think about is there a bucket list? If you've been recently diagnosed with MSA, is there a place you've always wanted to go? Now is the time to start thinking about it and looking into it and trying to make that trip happen. Another option is just to go locally. In terms of budget, it's a lot easier. In terms of travel, you can get in a car and go somewhere more local to your home, a beach, the mountains, a lake. There's lots of opportunities to go do something that's a little more rural and relaxing and easy to get to. And then a third option is always to think about visiting family or friends. That also can be, much more economical than a bucket list trip. You can spend wonderful quality time with the family and friends. One of the suggestions I have is to really be open and honest with whoever it is you're going to stay with or stay near, and talk to them about limitations so they don't plan a million things that really can't be done by by your group. So consider being just very open about let's spend a couple of days doing nothing, and let's spend a day going somewhere that's manageable. But any of these trips, no matter what you decide, can provide all those wonderful benefits that I talked about earlier of traveling, the memories, the quality time, the time away from the routine. So really anywhere, even down the road to a vacation home, can provide wonderful memories for your family. So our bucket list trip was a trip to Iceland. My family had always wanted to go, and when Joel was diagnosed, we decided to go ahead and make that trip. We left for Iceland on January 1st, 2018, and I remember thinking we were completely out of our minds for doing this trip in the middle of winter. But it turned out to be absolutely the best trip our family's ever taken. Joel was using a walker inside, but a wheelchair outside because he couldn't walk very far. And as you can see from these pictures, he's the only one smiling because the rest of us were incredibly cold, but it was a wonderful, wonderful trip. Okay, another way to think about where to go, what kind of trip, is to think about what do you like to do? What activities does your family enjoy? And also, what are you capable of doing? So you can think about, do you want to go to a city? Some of the issues there are how will you get around? Do you want a rental car, which maybe you wouldn't normally do in a city, but it might make things easier? Can you take taxis, that kind of thing? Make reservations for museums, restaurants, things like that, even if you end up canceling them. It's much easier to cancel something because you've changed your plans than to get a reservation, especially these days with COVID and reservations being necessary. Do you want to go to a more natural setting? A vacation rental is a wonderful way to travel. One tip I have is that Airbnb, for instance, has many, many filters you can put in for disabled visitors. You can put in no stairs, no front step. There are many, many options, and you can narrow down your search and find a home that works really well for your family. And, the third option, which I've mentioned before, is to visit family in another city. Will you stay with them, or would it maybe be easier to stay in a hotel in a accessible room, that kind of thing. And also remember, family can give you some time, to relax. The care partner can have a little break. So there's all sorts of things to think about, but I think in researching where to go, think about, what do you like to do? What kind of environment do you want to be in?
So now I want to talk a little bit about how do you get there? There's lots of different options. Each one has some things to think about. So a cruise. Yeah, we met Gary Rose on the bottom right of this slide at our first MSA Coalition conference back in 2015. Kept in touch over the years, and as Diane was failing, Gary also had a lot of limitations, but he said every year he goes to a cruise. Every year he and his partner went to Alaska on a cruise. He encouraged us not only to go, but to join them for a cruise. And it ended up being an absolutely phenomenal trip. So cruises, maybe not today during the times of COVID, but cruises can be a wonderful option for people with limited abilities. And then there's trains. The trains offer discounts for ADA people. They have their own, you have your own cabin, and a lot of, I think our person only had one other cabin to support. So we got great services. They were very accommodating. And in this slide, the photo on the left is a small train trip we took as part of our Alaska cruise. And they had these elevator type things to get Diane into the train. And then on the right was our trip to San Francisco for the MSA Coalition conference there. And both were great trips.
So we took a lot of airplane trips. Here's a picture of us in Santa Fe, New Mexico on the left, and then Hawaii on the right. We went to Hawaii 3 times while Joel was in a wheelchair. And so the trick about airline travel, I think, is to plan ahead and ask for help. Every airline has wonderful resources on their website for disabled passengers. And so when you book your trip, you will be asked if you need special assistance. And I want to point out that it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in a wheelchair. If you're in the early stages of MSA and walking the long distance, like is usually required in an airport, you can still request wheelchair assistance, and somebody will come with you, push the wheelchair, and get you all the way to the gate and on the plane. So don't think of it as just something you need if you're in a wheelchair. They have wheelchairs at the airport. And so go on the website for whatever airline you're going on and request help, call the phone number. We were able to sort of have a very good system of traveling by airplane that worked really well, even in the later stages of Joel's illness.
And then there's cars. Getting in a car was different at different stages. Of course, early on with just a walker, very easy to go in any vehicle. But then as the wheelchair, as a walker came on, then a wheelchair, we had to think about the size of the car. We got a wheelchair that came apart into 3 pieces. For a while that worked great because I could load a nice power chair into the car. Then we were able to get a handicap van out of the goodness of the heart of one of our friends. And we also used ADA taxis, which were available in Seattle. And I realize they're not available every place, but a great option if you have it, where the wheelchair can just roll right into the taxi, and buses too. A lot of cities have buses with options for people in wheelchairs. In this photo, Diane was going with a good friend out across the mountains to Eastern Washington. And my friend was going about 120 miles an hour, and they got a ticket. And after the guy wrote up the ticket for a lot of money, Diane said, "I love your hat. Can I have a photo with you?" So he gave a great smile, but he didn't give a discount on the ticket.
He looks like he's going to with that smile.
He does. He looks very genuinely happy, but the ticket was there. So here's a tip for car travel is plan for restroom breaks. As the handout points out, the fast food restaurants are a great option, so are Starbucks. So you might want to really think about where you're going to stop.
Okay, so we all hope that every vacation is smooth and there's no bumps in the road and nothing happens. I think whether you have MSA or not, that's your hope. Traveling with MSA can sometimes, create some issues, but they can be dealt with a little bit of planning. So the first tip we have is to bring some documents with you. And I actually recommend hard copies, not just something that you have on your phone or your laptop. It's really important if you do have an issue where you need to visit an urgent care or an emergency room, even for something minor, it's really important to bring with you a description of MSA. We found that many doctors in emergency rooms and urgent cares and elsewhere really were not very familiar with MSA. And so there's a description of MSA that we're going to post as part of our presentation today. And I would print it out and bring it with you because it's very important for doctors to understand the disease when you're presenting yourself to them. The second thing is there is a letter to my MD, which is also on the Coalition website. We will also have a copy of it on our presentation section. And that letter is also explaining about MSA. And these are things that are just really helpful in the moment when you're trying to get some help and you want the doctors and nurses to understand very quickly what kinds of issues MSA can cause with somebody. So bring those with you. A second thing is to really be prepared for something that might happen. I think in our experience, the most common is a urinary tract infection. UTIs are very common for people with MSA. And so it's good to plan ahead and just think, we're going on this wonderful trip. Let's be prepared for something like that. So one of the ways to do that is to talk to your doctor ahead of time, or if you're on a palliative care, you can talk to your palliative care team and say, we're going on this trip. Let's be prepared if there's a potential infection or other issue. Can you be on alert to talk to me by phone or to have me text pictures of something that may arise, that kind of thing. So it's very comforting to go with a plan in mind for something that might happen and to alert your medical team that you're going to be away and you may need some urgent care from them by phone or email or text. And then the third thing is to really, before you go, identify nearby health facilities. I think this is especially true if you're going somewhere that's not a major city where there are going to be, more likely to be multiple large hospitals that can deal with, anything that comes up. If you're going somewhere smaller, more remote, I think it's really important to do a little research, figure out where are the emergency rooms, where are the urgent cares nearby where you're staying, and you can even read reviews of them, see how they're rated by patients and that kind of thing. And I think that really provides a lot of peace of mind, and hopefully you'll never have to use any of these things and the documents will stay in your suitcase or your handbag. But it's really important to be prepared and to know what you're going to do if something happens.
And sometimes some things do happen. So we were at the muster station getting ready to leave on our cruise to Alaska, the ship still moored to the dock. And Diane said, "I think I have a UTI." So we quickly found out where the clinic was, and we were the first people to visit the clinic on that cruise, which was not really a claim to fame we wanted to celebrate, but they were able to provide some help, and Diane got better in about a day. So it is there. There are health facilities there no matter where you are.
And I think it's important to think about that issue of asking for help. We found when traveling at any stage that if you ask for help, people can help you, whether it's the hotel concierge or the manager of your rental property or somebody at the airport or anywhere. People are really willing to help, and it's much better to just speak up and ask. And you'll find that things will go smoother if you ask for help.
Absolutely. We found the same thing.
Okay, so we have a few final thoughts, and Elaine put together this wonderful video of both Diane and Joel on some of our trips. I love that one.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, while we're watching these, just close with some final thoughts that we have. So first of all, exhibit 1 is this video, which is take a lot of pictures and take a lot of videos. It's fun to have, it's fun to have these to look back on. It's fun to look at them with your loved ones when you get back from the trip. And, one of the things this reminds me of is that you can also get beach wheelchairs, which I think we saw in Elaine's video of the Maldives, and Joel also used a beach wheelchair in Hawaii. Another thought is to don't overplan. You need to be flexible. It's great to plan, have reservations, have an idea what you want to do. But if something changes and you just don't feel up to it, then just stay home, stay in the hotel, stay in your rental property, just relax, play a board game. And so don't feel that you're missing out. So my message is really to manage your expectations. Remind yourself that the goal is to spend time together in a different setting away from home. And if you sit in your condo for 2 days, that's still wonderful time together, and you don't have to see everything and do everything to have a wonderful vacation.
Yes, I wanted to add, Patricia, when Diane had that UTI, all I had to do is to turn her bed towards the window. And so she was in bed for a full day, but she had a view of the ocean, and she felt like she was enjoying the cruise even there.
Yeah, and I think that's important because a lot of us are used to vacations where we try to do so much, and I think that in our experience that we had, just enjoy the moment, enjoy yourselves, be grateful that you're there together on that trip, and it doesn't matter how much you accomplish. The point is being somewhere else, and it's helpful to be somewhere with a beautiful view of the ocean or somewhere else, but wherever you are, it's really fun to just be together. So we hope that we've inspired you today to start planning your next trip. It may seem daunting, it may seem hard, and our goal today really is to provide you with some inspiration, but also some practical tips and things to consider. But you can do these trips, you can make these wonderful memories, and I hope we've inspired you to do so. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thanks so much. And whatever you decide to do, please have a great time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.